40 years has seen an unprecedented increase in the number of obese adults worldwide, climbing to about 640 million from 105 million in 1975. If the current trend continues, about 1/5 of adults, or 20% of the world's adults will be obese by 2025. Now, obese is not just a few pounds. I think obese, you got to be at least 25 pounds over your so-called ideal weight. So that's, within less than a decade, we're going to have 20% of the world population who's obese. Which means there's going to be an increase in people with, a few extra pounds, fat, that puts their health at risk. There's going to be, look, I've noticed over the years my waist expanding a little bit. I think we all do as we get older. But that's kind of a natural flow. You gain a few pounds as you get older. But what they're telling us here in this story in Bloomberg is that we're gaining more than the usual age-related weight gain. Because age-related weight gain does not leave you obese by the time you're ready to check out. And check out, for those of you in Rush Limbaugh's Real Linda, that means pass away, die. So by 2025, according to Bloomberg, 20% of the world's population will be obese. Now, the rate has more than doubled for women and tripled for men, according to a new analysis published by in the Lancet. Under the present trajectory, the chance of meeting a goal set by the World Health Organization to halt the increase over the next decade is, according to the study, virtually zero. So basically what they've come to realize is that the world has too much food. And because we have too much food, it is going to, I guess, remember the movie Wall-E? If you've ever seen the movie Wall-E, then you know that the human race, the human population in Wall-E has spent, 100 or something years in outer space, a couple hundred years in outer space on a ship. They became obese. Fat little round things that had no bone structure and that ran around in carts. I can't even, obviously this is not, Wall-E was a family-oriented movie, very innocuous and very family orientated. But looking at how they viewed the human race in the future like that, you wonder how the human race was actually able to continue, because I don't see how they could have had sex in order to propagate the species, as it were. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they. There's a story here about pornography causing a drop in sexual activity between two adults. That's, I guess, for some people, especially on the left, who consider that all sex with women is rape. They might be they might welcome the whole fact that guys are getting their satisfaction by watching porn instead of actually having sex with a girl. Just saying. That's probably good news for the man-hating lesbian crowd too. There you go. So see, good news all around. One of the things that has come to pass about there being too much food is, remember earlier this week, or was it last week, I brought you the story that Kim Jong-un of North Korea, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, was telling his people that, hey, revolution is a long road. Revolution takes a while, and there's a lot of suffering. That the Norks, the people of North Korea, need to be prepared for a new famine. Tough it up, North Koreans. You're a tough people. Okay, we're going to be ready for a new famine is coming up. So, some of you are going to starve to death and some of you are not. It's a new famine because of the West. And this from the New York Post. Now, I don't know how they know this, but and how they can prove it. But in any case, North Korean dictator leader Kim Jong-un, whose hostile actions have brought crippling international sanctions to his impoverished nation, has a new message for the hermit kingdom's starving masses. Get ready to eat plant roots. However, Kim, whose weight the South Korean government estimates has ballooned to 300 pounds, signaled through state media that the nation could be headed for another famine like the one that killed an estimated 3.5 million people back in the 90s. But not him, because he's got too much food. Well, you don't get to weigh 300 pounds unless you eat too much. And you don't get to eat too much unless there's too much food. Now, I'm guessing he's probably trying to save his countrymen from the horrible situation of being obese, because there are a lot of health concerns when you're obese. You risk diabetes and he's Kim Jong-un, so he's like superhuman. So he's not going to get high blood pressure and diabetes and other and heart disease and other fat related diseases, because he's superhuman. This is what they say about Kim Jong-un. So he's doing his citizens a favor. And if you've noticed, a lot of his generals and military brass and political brass around him, most of them are kind of rail thin too. They're not fat. So he's doing all of them a favor by eating their portions of food, thereby taking it on to himself to make himself massive in order to save the masses from other health concerns. Now, the Daily Mail is also reporting that a fifth of us in the world could be obese within 10 years and I know a lot of people think, well, it's the U.S.'s fault. The U.S. is just fat. Well, yeah, we're not 1/5 the world's population, though. I mean, just think about that for a second. We're not, the United States is not 1/5, not 20% of the world's population. So it can't be that the United States is at fault for making the whole world fat. Well, the dailymail.co.uk has a story. Everybody's got stories on this today. This is why I said this is good news. The world has too much food. So I don't know what the North Koreans really have to worry about. There can't be any famine because the world has too much food. So many fat people. I don't know what's going on in Africa. Sally Struthers, get off the TV already. Stop showing us these heartbreaking pictures of starving children. That's not possible because the world has too much food. These people aren't starving. If they're starving, it's because they want to be starving. I'm just because that's the good news. There's no more. There can't be any hunger if 20% of the world's population is going to be obese, and the only way you get to be obese is by having too much food. So the world's bulging waistline is going to be led within the next 10 years by China, the U.S., and Britain. So, yay, look, the United States is not all to blame for the world's obesity problem. Well, maybe the United States is, because we tend to grow and raise more food than we could possibly eat, even, with so many hefty and sizable Americans. We still produce way more than even all of us fat people can eat here in this country. And so we export it to other places around the world and thus make, I guess the rest of the world have too much food, so they eat too much and get fat too. But alarming figures are part of the world's biggest obesity study, which measured the height and weight of adults. Now, this reveals that there are currently 640 million obese people around the globe, comprising of 266 million men and 375 million women. Overall, fattest men and women now live in China, USA, and Britain. The most super obese, you ever see those TV shows, My 600-Pound Life? Well, yeah, those kinds of people, most of them are in the USA. But just plain fat people, well, that's a problem of China, U.S., and Britain. Notice they didn't say Canada. Are there any fat people in Canada? No, I'm thinking about it. And the Canadians have a pretty similar diet to Americans, so why aren't the Canadians fat? Generally speaking. I don't think that they are. I'll pay more attention to Canada. Now, Britain is at the top of the table in Europe, with 40% of men and adults expected by 2025 to be obese, the highest rate in Europe. Now, how are you English people getting so fat? Eating too much fish and chips, I'm guessing, huh? I don't know. But again, that's the good news. And look, it's being touted over on Yahoo News as well. Paris. I guess when I was in Paris, I didn't see the only fat people I saw in Paris were foreigners, and if I heard their voices, I could tell you where they're from. Yeah, you can tell if they're an American. And out of all the fat people who I heard talk, they were all Americans. Just saying. Now, it doesn't mean that all the fat people are American. Just out of the ones I heard talking were American. Now, some of the fat people that I did not hear speak doesn't mean that they were mute. It just means that they didn't have anything to say. They may not have been American, but about all the ones that I did hear, 100% were American. Or maybe they were Canadian, too. I don't know. But they didn't say A. And I don't know any Canadians that are fat. I don't know. Maybe the Canadians are not participating in this world having too much food. That could be it. And maybe that's the same thing in France. The French are not participating in having too much food. Evidently the Chinese are, because they're getting fat. Chinese are participating. So North Korea, well, not all of North Korea is not participating. Parts of North Korea are participating. Kim Jong-un is weighing in at nearly 300 pounds now, so they're saying. Look, why would they lie? You can look at the guy and tell him and see that he's round, roly-poly. Now, I don't know how tall Kim Jong-un is, but let's face it. Asian men are not typically very tall. Their average height is shorter than Western men. They are. They tend. It doesn't mean that you can't. Obviously, you can have very tall Asian people. Look at Ming. What was Ming? 7'1" or something. Professional basketball player. Good old Ming. He was tall. Chinese and Japanese, they can have some tall people. Koreans are typically taller. Believe it or not, that is true. South Koreans are typically taller. For Asians. I think they have a taller average height than Japanese or Chinese. Both of which, especially Chinese, can be very tiny. That doesn't mean that they're weak or anything. I'm not saying that they're little people, but look at Jet Li. He's like average. He's like 5'6" or 5'7", and Jackie Chan is 5'8". He's not very tall. But you could say that's due to their diet. They don't have a diet that produces height. Okay. But how do you explain North Korea then? He's a big boy up there in North Korea, as it were. He's a very big boy. I don't. I'm not going to.